How's your relationship with time? Are you wired and tired, stressed and overwhelmed, busy and going nowhere? Or just want to scale your business? Welcome to Take Back Time with your host, Penny Zenker. Penny focuses on books, strategies, tools, and tips to help you work smarter and approach your time more strategically. As a result, you can have more energy, focus, and get more done in less time. Be more efficient and effective. Get ready to take back time.
Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker and I'm your host. And I'm always out there looking out for you and how you can work smarter. So today I want to talk about automation because having an eye on how we can automate things and where we can really compress time. That automation is how we compress time. And so I wanted to look for experts in this space that we're going to really be of value for you. So I have Will Christensen on today, and he has over a decade of business development experience. And it's safe to say that he has an elevated passion, which you're going to hear as he's talking, about fulfilling what end users desire and efficiently working towards faster iteration. So automation in quotes. He's considered by some to be the Tony Stark of software. He enjoys tinkering and cutting edge technology, apps, systems, and loves to create and innovate solutions for businesses and individual clients. He's the co-founder of Data Automation, Nerd-staffed agency, which customizes both automation and integration processes for e-commerce seller. And Will also heads up a business development for Roundsphere, a tech incubator dedicated to developing new opportunities through software. So you guys ready to nerd out with Will? Let's go. Hi, Will.
Hey, it's good to be here. I mean, as you were reading that, and I was thinking a little bit about our conversation right before we hit that record button, I was laughing because nerd, I think, is an understatement sometimes when we start talking about Will Christensen, the Tony Stark of software. I am an app nerd. Like, you go out there and you're like, oh, there's this new piece of software that does X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah. And did you know it does this and this and this and this and this? Because I tried it out and I couldn't stop digging and seeing what else it could do. Like, I'm just that guy. So like we were getting on and I was prepping to like hit the record button and I was literally like, Alexa, turn off the front door alarm. Alexa, turn off the back door alarm. Because me being the total nerd I am, I've automated the notification that my kids are leaving the house. So my wife's at the dentist and I'm trying to work. I mean, COVID-19's taught us all about the whole idea of like working from home now and what that must be like. And so I use technology to continue the ability to keep my eyes on my keyboard, so to speak, but have a notification if my 4-year-old happens to make it out into the front yard. So I literally had to turn off those routines before we started because otherwise you'd be hearing the back door is open, the front door is open. So automation's part of my blood. That's just who I am.
See, guys, I told you we were going to get right into the nerd and the geek here, which is awesome, right? So we all want to really channel our inner nerd when it comes to how we can be smarter in the way that we work about things. So by the way, just as a tip, there's also a good thing that you can, and it's not a technology or an app, but you can also create I locked my kids in with walls, you know what I mean? So I block them into a particular room, and then I could camera in and watch them in that room so they couldn't get out of that room.
There you go. So the baby gate mode. My problem is that my 4-year-old's a little more resourceful, so I'd probably have to buy like 3 baby gates and stack them up. So like it would be like a full-blown cage. And then, I mean, anybody from child services that are listening, they're going to be reaching out pretty quick here. Yeah, no, I hear you 100%. I've played the blockade move several times and need to figure out how to do that in this house. We just moved here a couple of months ago, and so I haven't quite figured out my blockade strategy yet.
Well, I'm sure everybody will be anxious to hear what that is. And they're already online looking at how they can use Alexa or whatever they have at home to make that work for them too. Very smart.
Well, let me tell you how I set it up, just so that for the listeners that are like, well, I want to figure that out. I use a product called WYZE. They came out with $24 Wi-Fi webcams several years ago, and that's where they started. They were like, we are going to be the high-end quality, low end price camera and Wi-Fi camera, and they're amazing. These cameras are out of this world. And then once they get you, they're like, oh, well, now we're going to make a vacuum. So they actually, like, they have a vacuum. I just got it yesterday in the mail, and the thing maps out your whole house, and it's only $200. Everybody else is selling those for $500. So Wise Vacuum, I literally played with it for an hour and a half last night. Like, I let it go over and it like mapped out the house, and then it got confused on the stairs and wasn't sure how to handle like that situation. And like, I just sat and played. Well, it's not the like random vacuum that bounces around other places. They've actually gone a step further and like it goes down and like mows your lawn. Like it actually takes like, oh, if I were driving this thing, this is how I would make it go. It's got that much logic because it's got a little laser in there that maps out the house. And so like, I'm kind of excited to go play with it again tonight and like see if I can get it to map out the rest of the house, because it like creates a floor plan and then separates the rooms, and you can be go clean the front room. Like it's
awesome.
like
Stop
Wise.
this, because I'm buying all this stuff that you're talking about. Because when I got the electric, the robo thing, that was the best gift that I bought myself, because it would just go from room to room. But the idea of it mapping out and doing all that, stop it. Yeah. So more products, because I'm going to be listing them and buying them all.
I've got two, right? I've got a D-Bot, which is the one I bought 3 years ago for $200. And it is the stupid version of the bot, but it's cool too, because that bot, I mean, it goes around and it was great. My wife, it was funny because they were asking my wife, this is like when nobody really had them, or they'd tried a Roomba and they didn't work. So my wife gets there, and my in-laws, who are both not super into like the cutting edge of stuff, like they've started to get more, like they have an Alexa because we took our Alexa over there and I showed them the cool stuff and they listen to music on it. But they were asking my wife, well, what do you think about this robot vacuum? And my wife was like, actually, I really like it. Awesome. And so we have like a daily routine. We call all the small things. And yes, we do play Blink 182, all the small things on Alexa. It automatically goes off like in the middle of dinner time to remind us to go pick up all the small things so that the vacuum robot actually works. Because otherwise you find all sorts of things in it. But yeah, no, it's powerful. And so to get a step layer, Wise has that aspect. And they've got motion sensors as well now that they just launched. And they're only like $20 a piece per motion sensor. Slap that onto the front door, onto the back door, hook it up inside Alexa, and it'll announce every time the door goes open. My wife said she gets really annoyed if it's left on for too long, so I have to, turn it off before I get on podcast. But today she left for the dentist appointment and I turned it on and it didn't go off. My 4-year-old did not escape into the front yard. So Wise, WYZE, is the favorite home automation tool of mine for the different things that they've got out there.
Fantastic.
And no, there's no affiliate link there. I get nothing for telling you that, other than, you got kudos for figuring it out.
Yeah, well, it's people want different tips. I mean, and tools and strategies about how they can deal with their kids at home and juggle everything that they've got to do. So since we're on that kind of home front, let's stay there for a moment and then we can move into other areas. What other types of things do you find support you while you're, working at home? And you've probably worked at home long before COVID and the pandemic, but what are some things that are key processes or tools like this that you're using that really support you in the work from home environment?
So the number one thing that I've done for myself in the work for home environment is I went remote back in the fall of 2018. That would have been when I very first went remote, like August of 2018. And so I tell people that data automation was remote before it was cool, because now everybody's doing it, right?
Right.
By necessity. And, the one thing that I absolutely dislike is the aspect of the lack of social interaction. I found that I actually have been able to fully, a webcam. So this is going to sound weird, but a webcam is like basic entry. If you're getting on those Zoom calls and you're not getting a webcam, go get a webcam and encourage other people to get that webcam as well. Because for example, I have an assistant who I've been working with for an entire year. She and I are amazing friends. We tell each other, she's into my life. She knows everything that's there. She laughs with me. We cry together. Like, it's a very, I'm married. So, it's a very professional, intimate relationship. And part of the way that we've done that is all through webcams. So you'd be amazed at how much that increases. That's funny because webcams was not what I was going to say when you asked me that first. I got another one that I'll throw at you, but webcams.
Yeah, but let's discuss that one first because, that's a challenge because when you see each other, right, you don't have to be present. It is better to be present. It's absolutely true. But to see each other bridges that gap. Just to hear each other isn't the same. And so just like this is like you said, to have that visual of her. So all these meetings that are going on where people are not turning on their camera is a disservice to the team building, right? And to the relationships that they're still building. I
tell people, so I've even as a salesperson, so if you're in sales, turn on your camera even if they don't turn on theirs. And the reason I tell you that is because, you get into communication experts, a lot of what you communicate is in your body language and in who you are. So like when I'm pitching myself for a podcast or when I'm pitching myself for, hire data automation to automate something, I turn on my webcam, even if they won't, because I know that my ability to be genuine and real is going to be there. And they honestly feel a little guilty for not turning theirs on. And eventually I'll get them to turn theirs on. And sometimes they're not prepared, right? They're so used to being with cameras off that it'll take 3 or 4 meetings before they turn theirs on. But you'd be surprised. The law of reciprocity is real. And if you turn on your webcam, the others will. It's awkward talking to a screen when you can't see the other person and you can see your face, but really, really powerful.
Don't be afraid to ask. Sorry for interrupting. Don't be afraid to ask, right? Because I always ask for it. And, I do a lot of public speaking and I can't stand to be on these and to be speaking to people and to be speaking to what feels like an empty room. Like I need to be able to see some people. So I'm always asking people, please turn it on so that we can interact at that level.
Yeah. So the webcam, I guess the only thing I'd say beyond there is, we've been a remote since 2018. I have fantastic managerial relationships with people I have never met in person. I've never met them in person and we hired remote. We've never shook, like my salesperson who's been with us. She's amazing. She's been with us for about 6 months, a little more than 6 months now. I've never met her in person. And honestly, I'm excited for the day when COVID-19 calms down a little bit and we can figure out a way to see each other and do like a company retreat kind of thing. But the myth that in person is absolutely required to form a strong bond and a strong trust and strong relationship, it's a myth. Total myth.
It's a total limiting belief. Before COVID, I had a client that I worked with who was just in a totally distant location, and we worked together for 9 years and we never met. So I agree with you. It's just a mindset limitation that we have, and we've got to get rid of some of those, right?
Yep. So the second thing I would tell you about being at home, create different channels of communication. What I mean by that is when you get a text message, and then you get a WhatsApp message, and then you get a Messenger message, and then you get a Slack message, and then you get a different channel that goes off in Slack, and then you get an email. All of those things feel like the same level of urgency if you have not defined them with your clients and your customers. So my clients and customers know that the best way to get a hold of my team is actually through a form we created on the internet. So there's a Google form that they can go to, and they fill out that Google form. And OK Google is going off in the corner as I say Google, talking about home automation. But that they fill out that Google form, it automatically puts it right into our sales system, which puts it into the hands of the developers and they can get the work done. But we've clearly communicated the boundary that this is the way we want you to communicate. Now, any follow-ups, that's going to be through a private Slack channel that we've created with our clients. And we're going to talk through that. My assistant knows that I hardly check Slack. Like I actually, at this very moment in time, I don't know where my Slack is. It's somewhere. I've got 4 monitors. Yes, I'm crazy. I know. I've got 4 monitors. I cannot see Slack right now. That's because Slack is behind. Now that I look a little closer, I can see I've got 38 unread notifications in Slack. If I leave that up, I can't focus. I can't handle anything. So everybody on my team knows if you want to get a hold of Will during the middle of the day and you need to get a hold of him in the next 10 to 15 minutes, you go through my assistant who messages me inside WhatsApp. So she has WhatsApp and I've got WhatsApp desktop and WhatsApp on my phone. So choose, and here's the fun part. This can be totally free, right?
Absolutely.
Choose, like I'm going to use Facebook Messenger for all urgent communication and all communication that needs to be handled by the end of the day. I'm going to do in an email. And if it's long-term, like we don't really need to talk about it until next week, I'm going to flip and create a list inside a Google document or a Trello board or something where we know once a week, we're going to always look at this and we're just going to discuss things on here. And then set boundaries around your communication so that people know like in this level of urgency. And that funnel has created freedom for me from the onslaught of messages that I was getting.
Absolutely. That is so key. I talk about that as well, is that because in the beginning, people were so overwhelmed with all of these different channels that they had to stay on top of. And it was, it was overwhelming in the office to be interrupted in person. And now it's overwhelming to be interrupted by all these other. So those are great, great suggestions in terms of creating that process and then making sure that there's a system for each one of those sort of levels of urgency and to define what that is, right? Just to take that one step further, this isn't a technology, but it is making sure that you can automate a process in that way. Is that how do people know what's urgent, right? You have to come up with a definition of here's what makes something urgent to contact me, and everything else goes in this bucket or this bucket.
So shifting a little bit to business, one of the things that we did recently is we created what we call the Bat Phone. And the Bat Phone is a phone number that we sent out to all of our customers and said, hey, look, if you got a problem and it's the middle of the holiday, you call this number. You don't try to Slack us because we're not there. Guess what? We're with our families. Shock. Like, we actually took some time off to be with our families over the holiday, even if it was just virtually because of COVID-19, or maybe they were close enough that we could make that happen. So we said, call the Bat Phone. And we actually made it funny. And we put a little Bat Phone GIF of Batman, picking up the red phone and sent it out to everybody. And we said, and then, so I use a program called Twilio and Twilio Studio. And on Twilio Studio, I made IVR, which is a tool that you can use for an automated phone system. And I made it so that there were 3 options. It comes on and it's my voice, and it's hilarious because if you call the Bat Phone, it comes on and it's like, hey, thanks for calling the Bat Phone. We're excited to provide emergency support. If you need some business help before the end of this business day or before the end of this day, press 1 and leave us a voicemail, and we'll get a text message with that, and we'll get back to you within 1 day. If you've decided that this really isn't as big as an emergency and you don't want to interrupt people who are with their families, press 2 and we'll get back to you when we come back to the office under normal operating hours. Press 3 if you'd like to be connected to our on-call, I specifically use this word, our on-call support team right now live. They press 3, and then what I did is I made it actually call my cell phone and my wife's cell phone twice. So it does 2 or 3 rings on my phone, calls my wife's phone, 2 or 3 rings on, calls her cell phone again. And if all of that fails, it then goes to well, that sucks. You didn't get anybody who is on call. Please record a message, and we will text this to everyone, right? To take care of you as quickly as possible and expect a phone call back as quickly as possible. So we created this Bat Phone so that nobody had to sit on and watch all of our Slack channels, because that sounds like a fun thing to do over the holidays. Let's just sit and watch.
What I like about it is you're not giving your number. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you're running your own business and you've got outsource teams, right? You can have this number that isn't your number. So it's not going to directly interrupt you. And I love that idea of, press 1 on the level of urgency. That's brilliant. Like I'm borrowing that with pride.
Do it. Really and if you need help setting it up, data automation does do work on that side of things, but that's not a pitch necessarily. Like you could figure it out on your own, just watching the tutorials and seeing what Twilio has to offer in that. Right. And here's my favorite part. Guess how much I'm paying a month for that thing? Less than $5 a month.
Yeah, Twilio, because you only pay per time.
You pay per phone call or text message. Yep. Right. So really, really powerful system. And it is somewhat complicated. So, I have a guy who just paid me $2,000 to help him set up a similar workflow, but he makes it so he never, ever, 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 ever misses an inbound call ever again. Right. And it filtered. He actually put an option in his where he goes, press 4 if you're looking for media relations and how to help us advertise better. And it goes to a voicemail box that he never checks. So, there are so many opportunities for automation. And that's one that we put in place so that my team, because I'm the business owner, right? So I don't care if somebody calls me on Christmas Eve and the whole world really is on fire, I'm going to help them out. I'm okay with that. And so the stress of knowing that my phone could ring, and I did change my ringtone so that when that thing rings, it does say, Batman. So like it actually, I was disappointed that nobody called because, I was happy nobody called, but I was disappointed because it didn't ring. So anyway, it was good because I was able to say, you know what? Nobody has to be on call on Christmas this year. Yeah. We're going to have the Bat Phone on call on Christmas.
I love it. What a great great strategy. So there's so many different things that we could talk about, and I know we only have a limited amount of time. So hopefully we can have you back again and talk around a different topic as well. Let me just back up and ask you 2 standard questions that I ask every guest, and then take one more area, and then we'll close it down. What's your definition of productivity and why?
My definition of productivity is having the right gauge. Oh, well, let me back up. So I've just recently been going through Traction. It's a fantastic framework. They call it the Entrepreneur's Operating System. There are 2 different books called Traction, but if you find the one that's called Entrepreneur's Operating System, you'll find the one that I just recently went through. I paid a consultant. His name's David Newell from Evolve Leadership. Huge shout out to him. Paid him to come in and help implement Traction inside my company. So when you ask me, what does productivity mean to you? I think productivity means having a plan and following through with it. The reason I go so hard on that plan is I've discovered that if I don't create a vision and then push towards that vision, I find that my efforts kind of spiral out of control. So I'm not zeroed in on actually creating something of value. And I do have productive moments where I'm like, okay, sweet. Like I totally got a lot done that I didn't plan on doing today. But I think the very definition of productivity is, I mean, if you look at the root word, right? Product. So a product in my mind is creation, and it's hard to create sporadically. So vision, then creation of that vision. In my mind is that's the true definition of productivity, is executing on a vision that you've created for yourself or your life or your company or your kids or whatever else that looks like.
Right. And isn't it the truth that there's so many distractions and we get caught up in the weeds and things that aren't important, that are the small things. And so therefore we waste all of our time, money, and energy very often on things that are not on that critical path, that are not on that plan. So you're absolutely spot on that it's the implementation there. And I think that's where people have the biggest challenge, is because it's hard, especially under pressure, right? What does Mike Tyson say? That everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. All plans went out the door when COVID and the pandemic came around. Like, holy crap, how do we continue this plan with a level of flexibility? I guess your business got even more busy and productive because more people are looking to automate and do more with what they have. But,
it punched us in the face just as much as it punched everybody else. There were things that, one of the things we do is we work with big SaaS companies that are looking to connect to Zapier. So Zapier is one of the automation tools that I use all the time.
Yeah.
Zapier's amazing. I've probably spent more hours in there than, we've been fanboys forever. And like before they had a Zapier Experts program, we were Zapier app developers, and we're still the only company in the world that does Zapier app development, and we're Zapier certified experts and Zapier app developers. We're the only certified company in both places.
Wow.
Places. And so like that platform is just so powerful for where that goes. And, as you look at what you're going to automate, you really got to get around, how you're going to kind of decide where to go with that. And so that productivity, it's key. You have to make a plan and you have to stick to it, and you have to really get that going the way you want it to go. So
absolutely.
I couldn't agree with you more on, it's about seeing where that goes. Another good book that I'd recommend for productivity is Getting Things Done by David Allen. Love that one from the standpoint of it, like in the middle of it, he goes, okay, I'm going to show you how to, 5 questions to ask to actually define a project. And I want you to pick something and then do that. And at the end of it, he goes, and now I apologize for all of you who have been postponing starting that business, who now know how to start that business because of the 5 questions. And he talks about, like, first ask yourself the why, and then what does success look like? And he goes all the way through that. And it's really about defining a plan and then a pathway to that plan.
Absolutely. It's clarity, right? When we can, I talk a lot about the Pareto principle and living it and understanding when you really are clear what the 20% is that gets you 80% of the difference. And that clarity helps you to let go of the perfection and the need to focus as highly on that 80% that's not really driving the value.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So this VTO is what they call a Vision Traction Organizer. It is part of Traction, and that's productivity. When the team comes together, when I come together and we execute, we do what we said we were going to do.
Right. It's that simple, right? So if you said that there's one tool or process or way of thinking that's your shortcut that helps make everything easier and faster for you, what would that be?
That's, you know what? There's about a billion different directions I could go with that question. I'm going to share my litmus test for how I define what should be automated.
Okay.
So I call it 15-1-1-5. So you're looking for a task that takes you more than 15 minutes daily, more than an hour weekly, or more than an hour monthly. And then you want to do that task 5 times. Then you want to automate it. If you haven't done it 5 times manually, don't automate it. If it doesn't take you more than 15 minutes daily, more than an hour a week, or more than an hour a month, stop. Don't automate that. You're wasting your time. And the reason I say that is I've gone down so many automation rabbit holes and come out on the other end. And I was like, oh, great. I saved myself 10 minutes this week doing that.
Right, but you're the nerd and you wanted to just automate it. Come on.
So for me, I have an ulterior motive because then I put that in my back pocket and I go help somebody else automate. But I've done that enough times for clients where they were like, well, that's great, Will. I just spent $3,000 automating that with you, but I'm not seeing the ROI because that only really saved us 10 minutes. And I was like,
right.
Fetch. I should have thought of that beforehand. So learn from me and my clients and our wasted money where we automated things that shouldn't have been automated and make sure that you find those things. So that rule that I give myself. Then the second thing I do. So here's the second part of the litmus test. Where's the data now? Where does the data need to go? And what needs to happen to it in between, which sounds super stupid and simple, like origin, source, destination, what's in the middle, right? Like, oh, duh. If you define what needs to be automated, what needs to be processed, what the process looks like with those 3 questions, and then you hand that to a developer, or you hand that to an automation expert, you're going to waste a lot less money. So, but if you can't answer those questions, you're not ready to automate.
Right, because you don't know clearly what the steps are and how to do it.
Yep.
So along that vein, let's pick a particular type of business. Let's take a service business. Somebody's in a service business. What are the top 2 things that you think would, because you've dealt with lots of different companies, that if they automated those things, it would make their life so much easier?
So in a service business, there are the 2 things that I would focus on for looking at that. The first thing I would focus on is automating the replies to your inbound inquiries. So let's say that you're a service-based business and you're the guy who does, like, you're selling tile, or you're the guy selling courses. And the way that people get a hold of you initially is they shoot you a text message. Love iPhones, but in this situation, I'm going to tell you to go get rid of your iPhone, get an Android phone, install an app called Automate, and you can automatically reply. So you change all of your messaging to say, hey, if you want to get a hold of my course or my tile, text the word tile to my cell phone number. Then you automatically reply to that message with a series of questions that create an inbound flow for you so that you can qualify the people who you're talking to. So as services, it's very difficult to match ourselves with the right individual. And so automating the inbound flow and the communication with those individuals is absolutely key, because eventually you'll get to the point where you have too many leads and the leads are going to destroy you because you're focusing on the guy who has no money and the guy who has all the money. So create a system that qualifies. If you go to dataautomation.com right now, you can see a perfect example of that. Fill out the contact form or the sticky footer form, and you'll see that we actually auto respond to you and we pre-fill a form that we then ask you to fill out. And that form pushes you to the right person based on what you tell us about your automated process or who you are or where that goes, which gives us all the information we need to really create a solid process for you. So that would be...
That can happen on your phone. That can happen from your website. That can happen from Facebook. There's tools that allow you to do those from Facebook Messenger, right? That can be from almost any source that you are bringing those leads in.
You name it. And if you're having a problem, you're trying to figure out, well, what do you like? Well, all of my stuff's inbound phone calls. Remember the beginning where I automated my bat phone? Absolutely. Totally possible via phone. Like, you name it. Like, you might have a problem if you're doing fax messages. We could probably figure it out, but you know what I mean? Like,
nobody
you name it.
Fax anymore, so we can rule that one out.
I hope so. I've been amazed. I've seen some people still do. I actually have some automations that I've done fax stuff with. You can do email to fax if you were wondering.
Yeah.
You can do email to fax or email to print. Like, I actually have people who print stuff. They need labels printed or whatever, and it has to go from physical to, or from the digital to physical world. So yeah, you name it, that process can be automated.
Right. Awesome. And what would the second thing be? So inbound lead support, absolutely. That's awesome. What do you think the second thing would be? Inbound
customer support. So I would go to my customers. So we were getting all sorts of people who were coming to us. We are a service-based business enabled by technology, right? That's what we do, is we provide a service where we automate stuff for people. They would email us. That was their primary method of communication. sometimes phone calls, depending on how urgent it was. Remember, I had not defined what was the way to contact me if it was urgent, right? So this is something that I've learned and I'm sharing with you. That form that we talked about where every single person, this is the best way. And we trained our clients, like if a client sends us an email, we'll sit on the email for 2 or 3 hours before we'll respond to it on purpose to show them that the form is faster. Like you almost have to like Pavlov dog train your customers to like, so if they're in the habit of emailing you.
Yeah.
Snooze that flipping email for 5 hours and get back to them and say, hey, thanks so much. Here's the answer to your question. Just so you're aware, if you'd used the form, I could have responded immediately.
So how do you deal with, so let's say I'm the company, I deal with this all the time and I hear companies say, oh, we could never do that. We believe in quick response. We would never sit on it and not let them because we're afraid we'd either lose the business. Real estate agents talk about they're afraid they'd lose it. I even have an accounting firm that I work with that says, that they can't do it either because their clients call with these things. What do you say to them to get them to train their customers and get past that emotional block that they have?
When you give your customer the level of service that you can give them once you've trained them, they'll never go anywhere else. Right now, the level of customer service you're giving them is custom and disorganized. And they know it. Like that's the first thing I would say to you is you don't think you're naked. They know exactly what's going on there. And the fact that you're giving them free reign and access is just training them to be more abusive customers. My most abusive customer, he's actually a really beautiful friend of mine. So if he ever listens to this podcast, you probably know who you are. And I love you, man. It's okay. He has a really hard time with some of that, but we've trained him and his team to go through that form. And now that he goes through the form, we track every bug that he gives us. We resolve every bug that he gives us, and we resolve them faster than we did before. And now it took us a year to get that to really move forward and get it where it's going. It is shocking how much faster we are at resolving inbound ticketed issues, inbound requests, inbound sales requests, all of the above. We are much more rapid. So I found that customers, when they want something, they're willing to jump through a hoop or two if they know that you're better than the other guys that are out there. So graduate from being a mom and pop who'll do anything for anybody and turn into a real business so you own your business and your business doesn't own you.
Absolutely. Amen. Well, Will, this has been great. I could talk to you all day, right? So we'll have to make another appointment to talk about some other topics as well. But lots of great nuggets here for people to at least, right, spark. If they're not a service business, they can at least think about what you're talking about and what problem they might have in working with their clients or internally and so forth and put that hat on. So thank you so much.
Remember 15 minutes a day, an hour a week or an hour a month. Do it 5 times manually, then define where's the data now, where does it need to go, what needs to happen to it in between. If you take nothing away from this episode besides that, that's where you need to spend your time automating, delegating, or eliminating and figuring out where you're going.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. So where do you want to send them?
Yeah. So if you head to my website, to dataautomation.com, test out that form that I was telling you about where it automatically replies to you. That is not, you'll get it and you'll be like, oh, that's actually kind of nice. They put the inquiry right there that we pre-filled the form. So you send your email. You don't have to enter your email again, right? We pre-fill the form so you get exactly where it is. And we end up asking you the questions we were going to ask you in the first phone call, in the first form. And we actually save everybody time by having you do the form. So it's pretty powerful. So that's how I would reach out, is through dataautomation.com. And you're welcome to mention this podcast episode. And we always try to do something a little extra for anybody who's coming in off of our podcasts.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, Will. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
And thank you all for being here. I know that you took some notes. You're probably already on Amazon buying some of those initial tools that Will was talking about, the Wise cameras and whatnot. So, stay tuned, because we have more tips and tricks and great guests who are going to help you to work smarter, to think more strategically, and to be more productive in everything that you do. My name is Penny Zinker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. Today's topic is another opportunity for you to put the knowledge you learned into practice. Tune in again next week for more strategies that will help you have more energy and focus to get more done in less time, so you can continue to take back time.